Yeah, sure,
Because
sure.
around the time you were there was a hell of a lot of talent coming through at
Yeah.
that time. I mean, it's one of them, times that will never happen again.
I don't think it'll never happen again. I just think it was the right place at the right time. I think it was the tail end of WWE being very, very hot, professional wrestling, sports entertainment being very, very hot. So it attracted a large amount of people from wide varieties of walks of life. And I think after 2002, the business started to slow down a little bit. So it's a supply and demand issue. When you're not the most popular entity, the maybes or the casual fan doesn't want to be associated with you. When you got The Rock and Austin and everybody else and you're selling out everything, everyone wants to be associated with you. Because of the mainstream popularity of wrestling in the late 90s and the early 2000s, there was such a flux of people wanting to get involved in the business. Not only that, but you had programs like Tough Enough, like the awful Discovery special that Prototype Kid was involved with, that totally killed the business. But you had a mainstream media venue of not only is this the coolest thing on earth, but this is how you get interested in it. So those two things combined, I think you just had an unbelievable, like, I remember my first day of going into OVW. I saw Shelton Benjamin walking on the top rope, Greco-Roman freestylist Brian Keck, UFC guy Ron Waterman, Brock Lesnar, Dave Batista. It looked like you were walking into lobby in the Matrix. Like, as a kid bending a spoon, like, I don't belong here. It's right now, I think it's a matter of supply and demand, and you can see that there are some brighter stars in the developmental system, but definitely not as much as there were in that stellar class in OVW. That was a cool moment. Nick Dinsmore was actually is still a good friend of mine, and we actually refer to that time as Camelot.
We hung out with his mom and dad in Detroit at WrestleMania, and she sent over some pancake mix. We got talking about pancakes. She's very, very lovely people.
Yeah, very nice folks.
And emailed saying Nick's not with WWE anymore in the same entity, but wish him best of the future, because again he's a great talent.
No, he is, and not only a great talent, but if anybody out there is listening, I know that they are a great asset into the development of a lot of the WWE talents. People don't know how much he was integral in teaching the do's and don'ts of the basics of professional wrestling to a lot of the people.
Anything you would change, as far as John Cena, the character? You're like, I wish I'd changed this. I wish I hadn't done this.
Not a thing. Not a thing. Had a lot of success at OVW, and gained a lot of confidence to someone who really struggled in the beginning phases of their career, almost to the fact of I wasn't going to make it. I pretty much have run the gambit. Like, a lot of people look at what I've done and think that I've had immediate success. If you remember with the rap gimmick, which was basically established my identity, I did that once on SmackDown for a Halloween thing, and then for weeks on end, months on end, I would wrestle in Velocity and dark matches. But every time I got the mic, I was so outlandishly dressed, and they let me speak. And at that time, that was my strong point. It wasn't my work in the ring. So I viewed it as my one chance to make an impact. That was what I had to offer the paying public that was entertaining. And I would make sure that everything I said was the funniest and the most edgy stuff I could possibly say. That's what kind of got me on the map. And it was the right time. It was just as hip-hop was at its peak. I was very, very lucky to be paired up with the best in the business. And if you can't learn from superstars like Triple H, like The Undertaker, like the Kurt Angles, HBK, if you can't learn from those guys, you don't deserve to make it.
A lot of people say, the Flairs, HBK, Angle, they could have a great match with a broomstick.
That is absolutely true. Those guys, and that's the symbol of being a professional. That's what the business is about. Fly them around the world twice and have a match on the jetway, and they'd still tear the house down. It's the ability to have an awesome performance when it's least expected. And that's what those guys time and time again have had to go through. Undertaker being a perfect example. He's had so many money matches with so many guys you never thought would be in that position.
Giant Gonzalez.
When you can pull it off, that's the sign of somebody who demands respect in this business, and all those guys get it.
Just before the rap gimmick, was there a chance of you getting cut?
Absolutely. I was nobody liked me. Everybody thought I was just another big guy, and I had no skills. It's just it was a time where I went through a lot of change. Like I said, I had a lot of success doing the Jim Cornette style of wrestling, which is like the complete opposite of the then WWE style. So it was like I was thrown into the deep end. But I'm glad that I almost didn't make it, because if I didn't make it, I'd probably just be back at Gold's Gym cleaning toilets. You hear so much about the series of tests that maybe some of the talent goes through. I just think I was given the sink or swim ultimatum, and then started to do the hip hop thing, and at least showed everyone that I could speak. And from then on, match after match, progressively worked on my craft, and then hit a point in my career where I actually said I want to stop speaking and start wrestling, and that's exactly what I did. I started. So
it was a conscious
wrestling.
thing for you then. That was
absolutely. I knew that was my weak point, but if you have a short television match where 90% of it is rapping and 10% of it is wrestling, you're not really. It doesn't become World Wrestling Entertainment. It might as well be World Rapping Entertainment.
One of my favourite characters who's just shone through over the past 6-7 months, Santino Marella. I think he's brilliant. I'm not a big fan of his work in the ring, but this guy is
and I think that's
he's taken that mold from what you
yeah, and I kind of gauge the audience that you're speaking to, regulated upon your questions. It's a very knowledgeable audience. I think a lot of times they're too critical. I compare them to movie critics. Movie critics will pick apart movies that will just go crazy at the box office, and the movie critics will be like, it's a piece of shit. Yeah, it's not Gone with the Wind, but people like to see that stuff. Santino is a perfect case in point. Here's a kid who was also on the bubble, maybe not going to make it because of he needed a lot of polish in the ring, but got a chance to talk. He has a lot of enthusiasm. He really digs the business. If you talk to him, he loves the business, which immediately garners respect from me. And he's not afraid to go out there and be a jackass. You got to tip your cap to that. He's a funny guy, and he adds a piece of entertainment to our program. That's a success in my book.
In this time you've been off, what is John Cena's day?
4 to 6 hours of physical therapy. After about 2 days in the hospital, I was sick of being in the hospital. So my goal was to get back in the ring as soon as possible.
They would have said to you, there's no way you're coming back for Mania. That
they said 6 to 12 months. Edge had a pec tear and came back in 5.5. So I'm trying.
I'm doing 5.
I'm trying to beat him. If it's 5 months and 12 days, I'm just trying to beat him, because it's you hear a lot of people talk about like strength of schedule and the fact that you need a break, and the word burnout is used so often. There's a guy that I know who runs the joint, and I've never seen him rest. I've never seen him stop, and it's not because he's a robot. It's because he shows up to work every day. And you can see the damn gleam in his eye, because he loves to do what he does. I love to do what I do. That's why all the supplemental stuff, the movies, the music, is to add to the attraction of the squared circle. Whether you like me or you don't, I still dig showing up for work. So I don't like being on the sidelines. I don't like resting. I sure as hell don't like doing 6 hours worth of tubing and stress ball activities, but I do it because I know it'll get me back in the ring faster. It's been tough, man. I watch the product all the time, but it's tough to watch the product because I want to be out there. You feel worthless. I feel like I'm not, doing anything to contribute.
But you got to go to Iraq.
You can tell when people don't want to be in certain places. It depends on certain people. And you always look really at home there.
Man, I dig that show only because the men and women over there, they treat us with the utmost respect. It's an awesome trip. They thank us as much as we want to thank them. And I needed that trip. It was just about the 2-month point or the 1.5 point where I was just out of the loop. And it's the first time for me in 7 years where I've just been out of the loop. I needed to get out with the crew. I needed to get out and do something, even just to dress up as Santa Claus and go in the ring. I needed to do that, man. It's just, it makes me think about what I'm going to do when this whole thing's over, because I
could be a road agent or producer.
Man, I'll put the ring up and take the ring down. I just I was fiending, I needed to get back out there, and that was just enough of a holdover to go on to the next thing. You guys probably already know this because you seem to know everything, but I'm filming a movie, and I'm spending some time with the New Orleans PD just to learn how to be a better cop, I guess, because it is an action-based police movie. But I most likely will be at WrestleMania in some capacity, but you probably won't see me on camera.
Now, what's the feeling in WWE about the movies? Because some, like your one, have done well, and some, like Stone Cold, for some reason didn't do so well. So.
I think the success of each movie is directly related to the promotion. I know Lionsgate was heavily involved in promotion of The Condemned. And man, I wish I could take somebody out back behind the woodshed for that one. They just promoted it as a movie. Never once did you know that Steve was in it. It wasn't necessarily promoted to the casual fan. I know from a WWE standpoint, they did all they could to try to promote it to our audience, but our audience is only so many people. To make box office money, you got to get the word out.
What about The Rock? What are your thoughts on The Rock?